Wait a minute. I already told you, but I really didn't cheat on my husband. My mother-in-law and husband were making assumptions and saying things as if it were a matter of course. I quickly denied it, but my mother-in-law didn't stop. My son is sterile, so there's no way you could get pregnant. If we get a medical certificate, it would confirm you are fair. Well, we don't need to get one. It's absolutely clear. When I tried to argue with her, my mother suddenly slapped me. I looked at my parents, who were both looking at me coldly. My name is Anna. I'm a 34-year-old office worker. My husband William and I got married last year after dating for several years. We both work, so we share the household chores and have a well-balanced life. My husband can cook, clean, and do laundry. I'm very thankful for that. We're able to live like this without any stress. So I'm living a happy, newlywed life. I'm sure that I will continue to live happily with my husband. I've had the desire to have children since the beginning of our marriage. Until I was in my 20s, I lived my life thinking that work came first. But when I saw my friends around me happily raising their children, I began to think that I wanted to have a child too. However, perhaps because of my age, I have not been able to have children. I was happy in my marriage, but there are also many discouraging moments. But I never gave up hope that a baby would come to us. Then, one morning, I woke up and felt sick. I thought it may be, and I immediately checked with a test kit. Then the test showed a positive result. Could I really be pregnant? I was a bit shaken, but I called in late to work and went to the hospital. Yes, it's definitely pregnancy, and I can hear the baby's heartbeat. Are you sure? Yes, you're in your 3rd month. Congratulations. Please go get your maternity handbook too. I couldn't hide my happiness and listened to the doctor with tears in my eyes. I can't wait to tell my husband and share my joy. I couldn't stop being excited and went to the supermarket on my way home to pick up some food. I wondered if my husband would cry and be happy too, and then we would hug each other. My head was filled with such imaginations even after I arrived home. I cooked dinner in a happy mood. Finally, at night, my husband came home. Whoa, the dinner looks amazing today, he said as he untied his tie. I couldn't stop smiling and said to him, "To tell you the truth, I got pregnant." And he said, "What? Pregnant?" He looked surprised. I was expecting him to scream in joy after that. But he had a surprising reaction. "Whose baby is it?" "What?" "I asked you whose child it was," he asked, looking at me with cold eyes. "What's the matter with you? Of course it's yours," I said, and he sighed. "I'm sterile." "What?" "So it's not mine." "I had no idea you were having an affair." "I'm disappointed." "Wait a minute, I'm not having an affair. This baby is yours." I told him that, but he wouldn't listen to me. "Just give me some time. I'm going back to my parents' house." And he left the house. He didn't even touch any of the food I had made for him. A few days later, my husband called my parents and said he wanted to have a talk with them. I told him that I wanted to discuss it with him alone first. But he didn't listen to me at all, so we decided to meet at my parents' house this coming Saturday. I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't explain well to my parents. So when my in-laws came over, my mother asked, "What's going on?" "What is it? You guys haven't heard anything from your daughter?" "I heard that your daughter is pregnant, but it's not my son's." My parents froze. "I didn't think Anna would cheat on him." I guess I was the only one who thought we were a good married couple. Wait a minute, I told you the other day that I really didn't have an affair. My mother-in-law and husband took it for granted that I was the one at fault. I quickly denied it, but my mother-in-law didn't stop. "My son is sterile, so there's no way she could have gotten pregnant." If we got a medical certificate, it would confirm the affair. Well, but we don't need that. It's absolutely clear. When I tried to argue with her, my mother suddenly slapped me. I looked at my parents, who were both looking at me coldly, and my husband and mother-in-law both gave me a sneering look. "Well, you deserve to be slapped. You committed adultery and never apologized for it." When my mother-in-law said that, my mother bowed her head and said, "I'm sorry, I apologize." "Come on, you too, apologize quickly." My mother urged me to apologize. My father also apologized to my mother-in-law and my husband, saying that his daughter had caused a lot of trouble. He grabbed my head and forced me down to apologize. I brushed my father's hand away and told him to listen to me for a minute. But they wouldn't listen to me. They are furious with me. "You've caused us so much trouble and brought us so much shame. You are no daughter of this family." My father shouted in front of my mother-in-law and my husband. "Oh my God, they've disowned you." "Well, you got what you deserved." My mother-in-law and my husband are just watching and laughing at me. Then the living room door opened and my sister walked in. "Dad? Mom? Please calm down a little bit." Thank God she's finally here. My father is furious with my sister too. "I don't know how you can be so calm after hearing all this. Besides, it's none of your business." "We're family, of course it's my business." "My sister had told me everything before you arrived. Is it true that you are sterile?" My mother-in-law and her husband looked at my sister with a questioning look on their faces. "Is it possible that your sister-in-law suspects us, William?" "No, not at all. But I think it would make things easier if we had some facts to back it up." She proceeded very calmly. "When did you have the examination?" My husband and mother-in-law looked at each other. "He didn't have any tests." "What?" I froze when I heard it. My sister is surprised too. "Well, then how can you assume that he's sterile?" "What? Are you trying to intimidate us? He hasn't tested, but it's true." My sister asked if it would be okay if she asked my mother-in-law how she could be so sure. My mother-in-law let out a sigh of annoyance and started to tell us the reason. "You know, my son was married once when he was young. This boy couldn't have children after 7 years of marriage. And after the divorce, his ex-wife got pregnant right away. This means my son was the reason she couldn't get pregnant. Now, do you believe me? This time, I could tell she was cheating on him because he is sterile." The idea that you would cheat on my son but still want to stay married to him is repulsive. You're a disgusting woman. You know that? My mother-in-law said as she glared at me. My husband agreed with my mother-in-law and said, "Yes, you are disgusting. You even made a child that I couldn't have. You are beyond insulting me." I was absolutely mortified. That's not proof that my husband is sterile, but there was no way I could argue with them without any knowledge of the matter. I looked at my sister to ask for help. She noticed this, looked at me, nodded lightly, and started talking again. "I see. I can see why you would think you had a problem if you had such an experience. But I can't say for sure that your son is sterile just because of that. There are families that have children after 10 years of marriage, and without any particular fertility treatment." When my sister said that, my mother-in-law butted in. "Don't try to mount me with information you found on the internet. You're not a doctor, so what you say is meaningless." My mother-in-law said that, and I wondered if she listened to me properly when she met my family. "I'm a doctor and an obstetrician." When my sister answered, both my mother-in-law and my husband said, "What?" I was stunned. Apparently, they really hadn't listened to my sister's story. My sister was also dumbfounded and said, "I've explained it to you when we met before their marriage. The whole story is that you are just speculating about this. It seems that you are all blaming my sister based on mere speculation. If you really want to blame my sister, let's do a proper examination. Since you are my relative, I'll do it for a reasonable price." When my sister said that, my husband and mother-in-law both flinched. But now that we've come this far, there seems to be no turning back. "If you insist, let's check it out." My husband and mother-in-law agreed to my sister's proposal. And later, the test was conducted. I decided to stay at my sister's house until the test results came out. I didn't want to see my husband, and I didn't want to go back to my parents' house. My sister tried to cheer me up many times while we were at home together. This kept me from worrying more than I should have. A few weeks later, the test results came out. We gathered at my parents' house again to look at the test results together. It turned out that there was nothing wrong with my husband's body. My mother-in-law's face turned blue and my husband was surprised. "Anna, I'm sorry, but I'm glad to know that there's nothing wrong with me and that I can prove that the child is mine." My husband said so matter-of-factly that I was once again speechless. Who was it that agreed with my mother-in-law to accuse me by mere assumptions? My mother-in-law also laughed and said, "If this is the way it's going to be, you should have had the test done earlier." She didn't even apologize to me. I guess that settles it for now. My husband was so proud of himself. I thought, I can't be with such a man anymore. My husband thought the discussion was over and said, "Let's go home together." But I didn't want to go home. My sister, perhaps sensing my feelings, said, "I don't think she has quite sorted out her feelings yet, so I'll take care of my sister." My husband reluctantly agreed, and finally my husband and mother-in-law left my parents' house. What a mother and son! They almost had us fooled too. "I'm sorry I slapped you the other day, but this is all their fault." My parents blamed my mother-in-law and my husband, but from my point of view, my parents were also to be blamed. My sister took me to her apartment right away. I was so relieved when I got to the apartment that I couldn't stop crying. My sister didn't say a word the whole time, just hugged me and comforted me. No one believed me, and they all looked at me with cold suspicion, which really scared me. In the middle of all this, my sister was the only one who stood by me. I'm so glad that I talked to my sister the day before the meeting was taking place at my parents' house. She went out of her way to come to my parents' house for me, and I really can't thank her enough. After that, I stayed at my sister's house for a few days to rest my body and mind. Then I made one decision and went with my sister to the house where my husband was. My husband greeted me by saying, "Welcome home. I've been waiting for you." He was surprised to see my sister and one other person. My sister-in-law, and who is the other person? He's a lawyer. I asked him to come today. Lawyer? My husband was very upset. Why a lawyer? I can't live with you anymore. Please, let's get a divorce. When I said the word divorce, he turned blue. Wait a minute. That's out of nowhere. It's not that sudden. After everything that happened. No, I'm sorry about that. But you can't just get a divorce on that grounds. The lawyer explained to him about that. As far as I can tell, the fact that you and your mother blamed Anna blindly would be a reason for divorce. And knowing that Anna wanted to have children, but you married her by hiding the fact that you were infertile from her is a problem. I think my husband didn't expect this. He nodded his head but seemed to be in shock. With my husband on the side, I packed up my belongings and returned to my sister's house. After that, I communicated with my husband through my lawyer. I asked my husband for compensation for the emotional pain and suffering he had caused me, as well as for property division and child support. Because I had a good lawyer, I was able to get him to pay all of them. Moreover, my mother-in-law and my husband had told everyone in the neighborhood and at work that I was having an affair. I sued them for defamation of character. In addition to getting some more money, my mother-in-law and my husband corrected and apologized to the person whom they had told the lie. As a result, my mother-in-law and my husband lost all the credibility. They had been isolated recently. I decided to live just down the street from my sister's house and rented an apartment. My parents offered me to move back home and help raise their grandchildren, but I politely declined. I don't want my parents, who didn't protect me, to take care of my child. As a matter of fact, my sister also had a bad experience with our parents who only cared about their impression to the society. So she decided to keep her distance from them. I owe them a debt of gratitude for sending me to high school and college, so I don't want to cut them off. But I'm really disappointed in my parents because of this. I'm going to keep my relationship with them to the bare minimum. It's enough for me to have a sister who really thinks about me and stands by me. Of course, when she's in trouble, I will do my best to help her. First of all, for the sake of my unborn child, I have to be stronger. Blaming Anna based on mere assumptions without a proper examination. What a terrible husband and mother-in-law. And the parents who believe that and blame their own daughter without listening to her are also a problem. I'm so glad that Anna's sister is a wonderful person. It will probably not be easy being a single mother, but I'm sure she'll be fine. Please cherish the bond you have with your sister and live every day happily. We talked for a few more minutes, but the smiles faded from my husband and mother-in-law's faces. Laura, are you all right? What? No, It's nothing. My husband asked me impatiently. Obviously, he must have plotted something. Then my mother-in-law suddenly stood up. Ouch! Ow! My mother-in-law rushes into the bathroom, holding onto her stomach. Mom, what's wrong with you? Why do I have to have this much pain in my stomach? This can't be. Lara, you didn't switch the tea, did you? I did. Me and your mother. Why did you do that? What's wrong if I switched? My name is Lara. I'm a 30-year-old office worker. My husband Joshua and I have been married for 2 years. We met through work. My current husband is a mid-career hire from a client I was working for. At first, he was new to the company and didn't seem to be getting used to the job. But the next time I met him, he seemed to have gotten used to it. I thought he was a smart man. Eventually, we got closer and we started going out on dates and for dinners. He confessed his feelings for me and we were officially dating. After that, our relationship went smoothly. He proposed to me and we got married. I think our newlywed life was going very well. My husband is not a good cook, so I was always cooking. In return, he did the cleaning and laundry. He also took the initiative in taking out the garbage, which was really helpful. But recently, he has been acting differently, or rather, his attitude towards me has changed. He used to follow me everywhere I went, and he always wanted attention from me when we were at home. I had to tell him to be patient with me. It was as if I had to train him like a puppy, but nowadays, he rarely spoils me like that. He used to talk to me in a sweet voice. Lately, he's been rather cold. What's for dinner? It's hamburger, your favorite. Okay. That's not much of a reaction. I went to the trouble of making it for my husband, but even after that, his reaction was cold. It's as if he's not interested in me. He was so kind to me in the beginning. I hope one day he will be kind to me again. And not only my husband, there's another person who is bothering me. My mother-in-law. My mother-in-law has been picking on me since the beginning of our marriage. Hey Lara, why didn't you prepare snacks? I'm sorry to hear that, but you visit us out of nowhere. Normally, you'd expect it and have it ready. No, that's impossible. Until now, my husband has been taking my side and talking back to my mother-in-law. Lately, my husband has joined her in attacking me. I really don't think Lara is considerable, do you? It's a wife's duty to be prepared for whenever my mother comes over. You never know when I'm going to leave you if you continue like that. He says things like this, and my husband makes threats of divorce. I'm upset because he wasn't like that before. I feel a mixture of sadness and still wanting to trust my husband. Then one day, the unbelievable happened. One weekend, my mother-in-law came to her house. For some reason, she brought tea and sweets that day. She brought an expensive-looking tea and talked happily to me. I went out of my way to buy the finest tea I could find today. Let's drink it together. I don't know. Why is she so kind to me? It's like there's some kind of malice in it. And my husband said, Thank you, Mother. I'll make the tea today then. Lately, he's been telling me, Hurry up and prepare the table. My mother is waiting. Why is he being so kind to me today? While I was feeling uneasy, my husband brought me a cup of tea with a grin on his face. Wow, it smells so good! My mother-in-law said as she put her face close to the tea. I was a bit skeptical and moved my face closer to the tea. It smelled like a regular tea, but there's something strange like bubbles floating in the tea. This is definitely not good. I think I should not drink that, but what should I do? I wondered if there was any way I could replace this tea. Oh, that's right, mother-in-law. Your favorite Korean singer was on a music show the other night, and I recorded it. You can watch it if you like. Oh, really? I'll watch it right away. Then my mother-in-law went to get the remote control. Oh, isn't there any snacks? You made tea, but you forgot to prepare the snacks. I told my husband. My husband is a bit arrogant, so he's easily provoked. I was just about to do it now. Wait a moment. My husband said and went to get the plates and the snacks. I replaced my tea with my mother-in-law's tea the moment they were looking away. Then they both came back to the table. Well, let's have some tea, shall we? Well, it's a fine cup of tea, isn't it? My mother-in-law and my husband began to drink their tea, and they watched me carefully as I sipped it. It certainly tastes different from the usual, I commented. My husband and mother-in-law have a grin on their faces. I know it's different. Yeah, it's delicious. My husband and mother-in-law laughed out loud at my comment about it being delicious. Oh yeah, it's good. I'm sure they put something in it. I said, yes, it's very good, and drank all the tea. My husband and mother-in-law were still grinning. We talked for a few more minutes, but the smiles faded from my husband and mother-in-law's faces. Lara, are you alright? What? No, nothing. My husband asked me impatiently. Obviously, he must have thought it something. And then my mother-in-law suddenly stood up. Ouch! Ah! My mother-in-law rushed into the bathroom holding onto her stomach. Mom, what's wrong with you? Why do I have this much pain in my stomach? Oh, no way! Hey, Lara, you didn't switch the tea, did you? I switched, me and your mother's. What? Why did you do that? What? What's wrong with switching? Does that mean there was something bad in the first tea you served me? No, it's just that. Tell me the truth. Otherwise, you won't be able to handle it properly and your mother will be in danger. As I said that, he told me the truth. I had actually planted a large amount of powdered laxative in your tea. Huh? Of course you'd get an upset stomach if you did that. And in large quantities, it could be fatal. Really? Call an ambulance. Oh, okay. That's how my mother-in-law was carried away on the ambulance. My husband was very upset and rushed to accompany her. I decided to put the tea that my husband had planted laxatives in a water bottle and saved it as evidence. I'll take this to the police and file a report. While my husband and mother-in-law were at the hospital, I decided to pack up my belongings. I called my parents' home and asked them to help me move my belongings, and I went to my parents' house. When I arrived at my parents' house, I got a call from my husband. My mom is in danger. She's in pretty bad shape. She has to stay in the hospital for a few days. So I need you to bring her a change of clothes and some other things, okay? Huh? What are you talking about? Of course I don't want to do that. Hey, you can't do that. My mom's in trouble. You're my wife. You should at least do that. I can't be with you anymore. I'm divorcing you. Divorce? When I said the word divorce, my husband was silent for a moment, then said, I see. If you insist on divorcing me, then I don't have a choice. But you're the one who asked for the divorce. You don't get a share of the property. What are you talking about? You're the one who caused the divorce. So I'll take what I can get. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not paying you a dime. The divorce was your idea. It's not my fault. I'm disgusted. You're the one who tried to force me to drink a cup of laxative tea in the first place. How can you think that you're not at fault? Besides, I have a big weapon against him so that he will be punished. But before I could mention it, he hung up on the phone. Well, I have a lot of things to do, like arrange a lawyer, so I'll let it go for now. After that, my husband asked me why my stuff is missing in the house. He says the house is falling apart because I don't do the chores. I got a lot of unreasonable and selfish messages. No, you're willing to divorce me, aren't you? Do you understand that you have to take care of the house by yourself once we are divorced? There are so many aspects I wanted to make him clear, but I didn't respond to my husband until after I had arranged for a lawyer. Then my mother-in-law got out of the hospital, and my husband and in-laws came to my parents' house. My husband and in-laws are in a bad mood. Divorce is not an option, but I'll comply. You didn't even come to visit my mother in the hospital after what happened to her. You just got out of our house, taking your belongings. How can I stay married to a woman like that? My husband said in an arrogant way. My mother-in-law kept on giving me a nasty look. And it seemed that my husband and mother-in-law told the whole story only from their point of view. So my father-in-law believes my husband's story. Laura, I think you're being a little selfish. My father-in-law is the only sane person in my husband's family. I'm sure he would think that if we were told only my husband's side of the story. I took out my phone and played an audio clip. I had actually planted a large amount of powdered laxative in Laura's tea. In many ways, the audio was a solid evidence. As soon as they heard this audio, my husband and mother-in-law's faces turned pale. How did that conversation come about? My husband had dug his own grave. Father, I felt I was in danger. I quickly replaced mother-in-law's tea with my own. Then mother-in-law suddenly got a stomachache. She has always been bullying me. And my husband used to be angry with my mother-in-law for that. But recently, they started attacking me together. And finally, he crossed the line. After hearing my explanation, my father-in-law had a furious look on his face and glared at my husband and mother-in-law. Hey Joshua, what's going on? Is it true that you were bullying her too? My husband and mother-in-law were embarrassed when my father-in-law confronted them. No, wait, Dad. This was just for fun. Lara got sick to her stomach and I was actually planting laxatives in her tea. It was like a fun surprise, you know? And I would of course not bully her. Neither would I. I was just joking with her. And you would call that bullying? I don't know how much of a joke they are. Don't think you can get away like that forever. This is why Joshua has been so horrible to me, isn't it? I took out an envelope and put its content on the table. It was the photographic evidence of the affair of my husband that I got from the hired detective agency. My husband's face turned even more pale. Why? Did you think I didn't know anything? Your attitude was so cold that I thought it was suspicious and hired an investigation agency. I never thought you were really having an affair. You're probably just trying to harass me and get me to initiate a divorce. Apparently, I had hit the nail on the head because my husband was breaking out in a cold sweat. I confronted him with the divorce papers to finish him off. No matter how stupid you are, if you're confronted with divorce papers in this situation, you know you're at a disadvantage, don't you? Of course I'll get alimony, and I'll also get a fair share of the property. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to report you for assault for planting the laxative. Huh? The police? Wait a minute. Don't you feel sorry for Joshua? Huh? What are you talking about? It's not just my husband. You, mother-in-law, are just as guilty. He was cooperating with you. Huh? Wait a minute. Why am I even supposed to be arrested? It was Joshua who planted the laxative. Mom, you came up with this plan. Don't you dare try to put this only on me. What? You asked me to help you because you found a new potential wife. My husband and mother-in-law started to fight. Neither of them would admit their guilt. They were scums. Finally, my father-in-law got fed up and snapped. Enough! You both committed a crime. Give it up and take responsibility together. Don't complain when the police take you away. And Joshua, you need to take responsibility for the affair. Pay Lara the alimony she deserves, and she'll get your share of the property. My husband and mother-in-law were completely freaked out by the sound of my father-in-law's angry voice. I'm glad my father-in-law snapped first because my father was about to lose his temper too. I said, let's go through the lawyers to deal with the rest of this. So I told him to sign the divorce papers as soon as possible. My husband was reluctant to sign the papers, but my father-in-law yelled at him again, and he signed them finally. I'm truly sorry for the trouble my stupid son and my stupid wife have caused you. I apologize. My father-in-law said that to us and took my husband and mother-in-law home. After that, I filed a claim for alimony with my ex-husband and the adulterer through my lawyer. I received $30,000 from each of them. Then I filed a police report against my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law for assault. I submitted the audio of my husband intentionally planting a laxative, and the tea that was made at the time of the incident. So they were arrested. They were both fined. Incidentally, my ex-father-in-law was so disgusted with my ex-mother-in-law, he left her and asked for a divorce. So my ex-mother-in-law had to work and pay the fine herself. But since she and my ex-husband are trying to stab each other's backs, my ex-mother-in-law can't even rely on her own son. She's currently working part-time for a low monthly salary to pay the fine. As for my ex-husband, his adulterer was pissed off at him for lying that they could get married without causing me any trouble. She snapped at my ex-husband, and my ex-husband promised to pay the affair partner's alimony instead. So he borrowed money from a consumer loan and paid the affair partner's alimony to me in one lump sum. At that moment, the adulterer disappeared. In short, my ex-husband was abandoned by both me and the adulterer, and he was left with a huge debt. He really deserves it. On the other hand, I got what I wanted, and my share of the property was secured, so I'm relieved. I'm currently living in an apartment by myself, and I'm working hard. And just recently, I got a promotion. I'm thinking of taking a trip with friends or my parents to celebrate. It's a crime to intentionally make someone drink tea containing laxatives, isn't it? It's not a joke. The husband and mother-in-law should go to the bottom of hell. At any rate, I'm glad that the father-in-law was a decent person who understood what Lara was going through. It was a disaster this time, but I hope Lara will find a wonderful person in the near future.
I am Casey, a 25-year-old office worker. I met with my husband Sid, who is 2 years older than me, when I was in university. He fell for me first after we met at a university event and eventually started going out. We got married after 5 years of dating. I never imagined that I would separate from him. In just 3 months after exchanging our vows, this was because of my mother-in-law. She was bullying me shortly after we got together. She lived on her own 30 minutes away from our apartment. Due to her being only 50 years old, I assumed she had so much energy left that she would drive all the way to ours without any advance notice on the weekends. Every single time she had something to say about how I was taking care of the house. You think that's what people call cleaning? I told you it won't work with the two of you working. When are you going to quit your job to become a housewife? I cannot wait to have a grandchild. If you can't offer me that, hurry up and get a divorce. I can get someone for my son. This is how she talked to me. My husband doesn't intervene, but rather laughs along. He even joins her sometimes. I didn't know he was such a mommy's boy until we got married. Last time, my mother-in-law visited. She just told me to cook her something since she was hungry. I made pasta with the leftover ingredients I had in the fridge. But of course, she always has something to say. Is this all you can cook? When I was young, I always made sure that I had enough ingredients from home. In case my husband comes home with one of his friends. I was screaming inside that she doesn't have to eat my food and that she shouldn't be here in the first place. But I just apologized and let her continue talking. Somehow, my husband started joining her and said, "That's true. Let's make sure we stock more ingredients." Huh? We just talked about preventing from our groceries going bad and only buying the minimum amount. My husband was completely swayed by her. So he came home the next day with a bunch of groceries. I asked him what he was going to do with all these. And all he said was that he believes that his mom is right. Can you not make your own decisions? Since we could not return all that he bought, I woke up early in the morning from then on to make lunch boxes using all the stuff he bought. I made 2 lunch boxes for my husband and I, since I felt bad only making it for myself. He would say, "I'm so blessed having your lunch every day." But does he really understand why I'm doing this? I don't think so. I mean, I work too, so why can't you do the same thing? Did I rush the marriage? I was regretting my decision a little. When this happened, I received a text from my mother-in-law. "Hey Casey, you have some explaining to do?" "What are you talking about?" "Oh, you can't fool me. I saw you walking with the man." "What do you mean?" "Right back at you. You are cheating on my son." "No, I'm not. Was that really me?" "Of course, I took a photo too." "Oh, I see. Haha. So you're admitting it. How can you do this to my beautiful son?" "This is a misunderstanding. That's my brother." Whatever I said, she didn't believe me. That is such a bad excuse. It's not an excuse. You also met him before Sid and I got married. I knew she wasn't going to believe me, no matter how hard I tried. So, how can you believe me? I guess I need to keep an eye on you. What do you mean? I'm moving into your apartment. What? I can't bear that. I told not to decide on her own. She then followed, saying that she would make us get a divorce if she can't move in, and that she'll let Sid know about this. I believed that Sid would recognize my brother in a second. And that's why I continued to ignore my in-law. The same day when I got home, Sid was already there too. "You're early today." "Cut it. Just sit down." "Oh wow. So she told him about it already." "Oh, whatever you heard from your mom, it's a Before I finished my sentence, he showed me the filed divorce papers. "Wait, what? What is this?" "You thought I wasn't going to do this? That's how much you hurt me. I'm gonna go back to my mom's, so reflect on yourself and decide what you want to do with it. I'm open to working on this if you're sorry and admit your faults completely. But if you're falling for the dude, just sign the papers already. In that case, I will be filing the lawsuit against you." I didn't know my husband was this stupid. He didn't even look at the photo properly and believed his mother's word instead. Even came home with the divorce papers. I knew I was going to divorce him at this time, but I just pretended to look sorry. When he noticed me looking like that, he said so proudly, "I'm not that mean, so I'll give 2 to 3 days to think about this." I could tell he wasn't so happy when I told him that I was promoted recently. It seems like not being able to get promoted and learning that his wife earns more than him now had been affected his self-esteem pretty badly. He was so proud to finally have the upper hand. I called up my brother the moment Sid left. He was right in his summer break from university, and the moment I texted him saying, "I need you and your friend's help. Food is on me," he replied that he was happy to help. I took a day off from work, and with the help of my brother and his friends, I was able to pack and send all my husband's belongings to his mom's. I then submitted the divorce papers and went out to celebrate with everyone. Since the next day was Saturday, I went to the real estate agency to look for my new apartment. I found a good one, so I decided on that spot. My belongings were also packed when my brother and his friends came over, so I sent out my belongings so that I could start living there as soon as possible. The next day, I got a call from my ex-husband. "How have you been? Got a chance to reflect on yourself?" "Yes, I gave it a thought and submitted the papers. I sent all your stuff to your mom's." "Huh? What are you doing? It's our house." "You may have forgotten, but you were the one who started squatting in my apartment." "Well, that's right, but..." I could tell that he didn't expect me to submit the papers. He was surprised at first, but tried fighting back. "I'll never going to forgive you. You know I'm going to file a lawsuit against you. You will regret this." He was losing it, so I told him this. "So you believe everything that your mom says, huh? Do you even see the photo properly?" "Photo?" I forwarded the photo my mother-in-law sent me the other day. "What the..." "Yeah, that's my brother. I told your mom so many times, but of course she never believed me." "What? What?" "So, I never cheated and I don't owe you a lawsuit." Wait, I didn't know. We don't have to get divorced if you never cheated in the first place. Huh? You think that we can just go on with our life after all that you've done? You only believed your mom and never bothered listening to me. You went so far as signing the papers. Well, I can't spend the rest of my life with someone like that. Go ahead and continue living with your mom. You're mama's boy. I hung up right after I said that. I ignored the calls I got from him for the rest of the time. So as all his texts. Seems like he rang the doorbell so many times after that, but I'm not there since I moved out already. This is what my landlord told me afterwards, but he would roam around my old house or yell at the door after ringing the doorbell until people called the cops on him and he was taken away. When he was being taken, my landlord told him that the homeowner has moved, and that's when his face went blue. He deserves it though. I got back to being single so fast, but I do not regret my decision of separating with a mama's boy and a sick mother-in-law.